Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start this session on small hydropower, investment in small hydropower. Here we have on the panel esteemed power-man Mr. R.V. Shahi, the former Secretary, Minister of Power. Then we have on the other side Mr. Pawar, Secretary of Power of Government of Uttarakhand. Then we have Mr. Lars Elegant, he is a statcraft man in India. And then we have Dr. Saxena, advisor of the Ministry of New Renewable Sources and in charge of a small hydropower program. Then we have Mr. Arun Sharma, he is the president or past president of Hydropower Association in North India. Then we have Mr. Anand Kumar, who is the director of a company. Then we have Mr. Bajpayee, who is the National Project Coordinator for a UNIDO project. And then we have Mr. Uday Phinde from Kirloskar. So with this introduction of our panelists, I request now Mr. Shahi to open the session with his remarks.
We are a very distinguished panel. I was there in the session in the morning, coordinating the discussion on state-specific renewable initiatives. Mr. Suresh Prabhu was also there for some time. That was the plenary. So I accepted the plenary, and Mr. Saxena said that I should also be few days back, about a week back, that I should also be associated with this small hydro session. But we have a group of panelists who are experts on the subject. Of course, we have always been talking the virtues of hydropower. I made that point there in context of India's initiatives on overall energy strategy with reference to power sector. And we have already become very, very fossil fuel centric, more than 70%. It could become more than 75% of our generation in next 3 years to be coming from coal. Now, because of the convenience of administrative setup in India, we have certain hydro projects being looked after by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Earlier it used to be smaller capacity. It was raised to 25 megawatt to be administratively with the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. But so far as I am concerned, whether it is a small project or a big project in hydro sector, whether it is a run-up-the-river project or a storage project, all are renewable. When it comes to really understanding the nature of renewable, all are renewable. I mean, it's just for the purpose of administrative convenience and portfolio management that something is put there and something is put in the Ministry of Power. The more we have talked in last 30-40 years to emphasize on the virtues of hydropower, governments after governments and we as professionals trying to articulate the case for hydro projects in general, the less has been the proportion that has been going on. That's a very sad part of the story. At one time in India, we really had about 40% of total capacity under the category of hydro, way back, long back. And then successively we have stressed this point, all of us. But the way it goes on, and the way the response of public, press, media, NGO, all of us know that this is an energy which, if it is not harnessed, that water goes into the sea. From all rivers it goes into the sea. All of us know that. And that it does not suffer from the crisis that we are facing now in India, from the shortage of coal. The coal production declined, growth rate declined in last 3-4 years in India, and our dependence on import of the order of almost 80 to 100 million tons, with foreign exchange burden, price escalation, higher cost. We all narrate the story of Vakra Nangal, we narrate the story of successful cases, but then that story remains, I think we talk to each other. We narrate this story to our own people who know the story. People who need to know and who oppose, we have not been able to convert anybody. That is the problem. Those who oppose, we have not been able to convert. We are trying to convert those who are already converted. Mr. Chu is there, has a fascination, has a true commitment for hydro development. He was chief executive of ITC way back, a very successful top-level business executive. And he has been struggling on this hydro with all types of problems. And there are others. But the question is, recently I was mentioning to our friend who used to be collector in Tehri Hydro project, Mr. Pawar, when I used to visit Tehri Hydro every month, or maybe more than once in a month, and finally we did it. I was so happy that the project which was started in 70s, we could commission in 2006. And we could not have commissioned in 2006 also. At the last end, we were to close the diversion tunnel and impound water into the reservoir. Some 500 applications to the High Court in that place, and don't allow them to close, and don't allow them to impound water, and don't allow them to commission this project. We worked overnight in 1 week. There was no stay, but sort of a stay, and we gave new affidavit to the court, and finally court dismissed the petition of all these people who are some affected people, some NGOs and others. Why we have not been able to generate a consensus to be a little more kind to hydro projects? That is somehow the narrative of those who oppose hydro projects sells, and narrative of those who are in favor of hydro projects, and perhaps there is no narrative or a properly structured narrative and not a well-planned delivery of those narratives, that we have not been able to carry forward. It's a failure on all of us, on professional and others, and lo and behold, last year when we had that tragedy in Uttarakhand, nobody, I mean, it came as chota print in some of the newspapers that if Tehri Dam was not there, Rishikesh and Haridwar would have been washed away. Would have been washed away. Nobody, I mean, it came, but nobody gave. People tend to disbelieve these things, even if it is true. Scientifically, it was established, if that much of water had not been captured there, and if that water was to come, these places would have been washed away. That story we have singularly failed to carry forward, to convey a message that it has an importance. That we are reeling under the burden of imported coal, and out of 22 or 23,000 megawatt of gas projects, we are hardly running 1/3 of the capacity in the country because gas is not there. 50,000 megawatt hydroelectric initiative, I was so closely associated, and we have hardly done 5,000 of that. We started many of them, but somewhere or the other, it should not be done, this rehabilitation, that rehabilitation, this submergence, that submergence. Even run-up-the-river schemes are being opposed. So that's a general. But I think our track record even on a small hydro project, in the sense of really getting an assessment of small hydro projects, we start with that. Are our assessments of hydro projects are correct assessments? Have we been able to capture all that needs to be captured? Is our Water Resources Ministry well equipped to find out the hydrology across the country in different parts, small rivers, small rivulets, and so on and so forth? And have we been able to really assess properly? Because I am doing something on behalf of the World Bank in Nepal. They say 80,000 megawatt is the established capacity. But then also say, established means studied capacity. They also say it could be as well 2 lakh megawatt, 200,000 megawatt. So same may be the case in case of our small hydro and mini hydro projects. There are incentives, There are difficulties for the people, and some of the participants who are here, they must have done some of the hydro projects. I have also done as a consulting organization some hydro projects, but I think difficulties are enormous. One thing I must tell you, whether it is a large hydro project or a big, chota hydro project, small hydro projects, difficulties are there in all of them. You have all those ingredients and difficulties are there. So I think let's discuss. We have all the inputs which will be available from this very distinguished panel. And good thing is that the new minister, because we have been mentioning that power ministry should be an integrated ministry. It has happened. Today we have a new minister who is power, that means conventional power, the new and renewable, and also coal. So I can see this integration becoming quite effective, at least in the sense of trying to approach and trying to develop a strategy. The outcome of these policy initiatives and some of the schemes that would be launched in coming months would be seen, but at least at the stage of approaching the problem, at the stage of trying to conceptualize how we go about the thrust, that definitely is visible, not only because of this seminar, but also otherwise I have seen it very directly. I worked on the advisory panel for Ministry of Coal, Power and Renewable, and we have submitted our report. I can see a big difference in the approach because of this integration of these three ministries into one minister. That is definitely there. And he is quite open to getting suggestions. So if there are suggestions which are workable suggestions, we may not be always trying to put things which may be beyond even the minister. Now that he is combined and he is trying to put the weight of NTPC, Coal India, all together in the sense that all of these organizations could also put their resources behind development of renewable energy sources of generation. So with these few words as introductory remarks, I would now request the first panelist to and then I think we have a long panel. So I think all of them should be talking for about 5 to 7 minutes, main points, and then we will have some time to discuss. Thank you very much.
Just to start this, what Mr. Shahi has started with the introduction of this subject, we like to talk about this particular issue, some of the issues which we need to flag, because as the investment in this sector, which used to be quite a lot in the few years back, but suddenly it has been there. So let us talk about quickly something about, so far we have 4 gigawatt or 4,000 megawatt out of 20,000 megawatt potential. We have decentralized, well-dispersed and affordable sites. There are no doubt on that issues. Ultra-low head kinetic turbines, kinetic energy options, which are available in plenty everywhere because we have a good irrigation network and they are not been exploited earlier. Relatively low investment and technology well known and highly reliable. There is no doubt on that issue because not of anything new. But one of the issues which has been which has been one of the major barriers for this progress or slow progress. In fact, this is not only the small hydro, but as a hydro sector, that inadequate response, like when Mr. Sai mentioned that we are not able to sell. I mean, the government owns the water. Government owns the all, in fact, practically speaking, government gives the all hydro site on lease. So still they are the owner. They charge the royalty, they charge the premium, but when it comes to that response, they are not able to come up adequately, and that is how the ownership of the projects must be understood, must be clearly understood. If they own it, obviously they get the benefit, and they must go into that stage. Relatively low tariff, slow allotment, slow clearances. This is also one of the areas where a slow redressal of the issues which is issued by the developer, because it's mostly site specific and where the site problems are more dominating. What it is required in terms of some of the sectors which requires regular meetings with the state government and remove the barriers which are very common in implementation, not very specific but very common. A regular meeting with the regulators to get Small hydro, for that matter, hydro is a well-known renewable energy, but when it comes to protection, it has to meet with others. So where the other renewable energy get protection, but the small hydro doesn't get it. Even for that matter, all those issues comes up. Some kind of a scheme where we can develop some kind of Urja Mitra in the areas where hydropower is being developed, perhaps could be one of the strategy where we can have the people on the board and then very easy to implement, and also where we can have the ambassadors set up there. The banks, of course, have difficulties because the disasters which have come in Uttarakhand has been one of the things, but I think they are now taking care of this, so this has to be there. Recently developed hydropower sustainability tool assessment protocol, which is a well accepted by all stakeholders framework, I think should be adopted, so that at least if most of the sites are good, if there are any bad sites, which can be taken off. And pump storage schemes, even for small hydro schemes, need to be promoted. Broad actions, of course, in the reassessment of potentials, assessing the ultra low head, which is quite plenty, as I said, in irrigation schemes, renovating of the old plants, larger program for water mills and connectivity with grid users. Today we're talking of rooftop, which is available. Why not we talk about even 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt to connect to the grid? Introduction of the hydrokinetics and effective monitoring mechanism, so that any awareness and those gaps are filled up. So with this remark, I would like to stop, and then I'd like to invite the panelists for that. Thank you. So I think now I'd like to invite Dr. Saxena for this session to give his remarks.
Thank you, Arun. Respected sir. In fact, when I was designing this program as to whom I should call, I had a very sort of self-motive inviting Mr. Shahi for this to chair. Perhaps you people do not know the background. The subject of small hydro from 3 megawatt to 25 megawatt was transferred in the regime when he was Secretary Power. That was one reason for me to call him as chairman. The second reason was that he is in the panel of advisory committee of Ministry of Power, Coal and Renewable Energy, advising our own minister. So I thought that he is the best person in front of whom we can present our difficulties. The most important thing at the moment is that everybody in hydro sector realizes, and that has been communicated, that this sector is in danger. Well, renewable energy was inaugurated some in 90s and then some in 2000, and maybe solar started its first inauguration in 2010. As far as hydro is concerned, it was inaugurated in 1897. The technologies, the renewable energy technologies to which I belong, are struggling to move from 20% to 21%, or 18% to 19%, or 19% to 20%. Hydro provides you at least 60% of efficiencies. Our turbines are 85% plus, and the project gives you a PLF of more than 60-65%. I don't think there can be any renewable energy technology which can beat small hydro or hydro per se. But still, sir, we are in distress. Reasons all of you have explained. Somehow we have not been able to establish the contact with the people who oppose it. There is a reason for that. Hydro community is a very small community. The numbers are less. If you see, we have total 1,000 projects in small hydro sector from up to 25 megawatts. We have about 500 and odd projects total as far as large hydro projects are concerned. So the number of people are less, and hence we are not able to make that impact as probably the smaller area or the people who are in other technologies which are able to make impact. As far as history of small hydro is concerned, all of us know that we are the oldest. We are the most stable technology available world over, and that's true. Everybody understands. When our turbines are made, we struggle for, we take pride in taking them from 90% to 90.5%. That kind of levels we operate. The reason for not being successful, or rather today we are in a problem, is that we are really taking more time than what is required. Hydro projects, the number one problem if I have seen in this sector is that we take more time than what any particular bureaucracy would tolerate. Sir was mentioning that we started in 70 and we completed our project in 2010. That's true. There are a large number of hydro projects also which takes 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So probably I would like to say that we have to find a way where we can complete our projects together. I was able to communicate to the present government, present minister, present secretaries that we are in problem. As far as remedial action is concerned, I am sure all of you are aware that we have started working on a national mission on small hydro. A group was constituted. We have already done the first draft. The draft is on MNRE website. I would request all of you to see, and this is the time when we can make a dent, we can make suggestions. At least I have committed to the renewable energy community that we will be delivering about 5,000 megawatts in next 5 to 7 years. I know, if I know the hydro sector, it is a very, very difficult task. We can do 5,000, but maybe we take a little more. But I would request that if we have to revive this sector, we have to increase our numbers, we have to show that we can deliver, and our 5,000 megawatt is surely at least 15 to 20,000 megawatts for any other renewable energy technology, be it solar or be it wind. Thank you very much. I would request Arun to take over.
May I now request Mr. Anand Kumar, Director, Baker Tilly International.
एक आर इन्वेस्ट के नाम से होगा। ये स्क्रीन पर दिन होगा। चलिए। Good evening, folks. My name is Anand. I work with DSC Baker Tilly International. Coincidentally, I was reading an article in The Economist, the latest edition, and I would like to begin my thoughts with that. There's a company in China which is going public called Damlin Wanda. And interestingly, that company has a very small proportion, very insignificant. It's a pretty large business, one of the top 5 companies in China, going outside China, clocking 100 billion plus US dollars. And their small hydro portfolio, which in the overall business is very insignificant, but in their filing, they have been showing an year after year return of around 28% per annum. And that brings us to the thought, I have been in this sector, in the power sector, for the past several years now. And what is interesting is to note is the reason why our small hydro, or for that matter even hydro, is unable to attract that kind of return, it has more to do with the inferior financing terms that the sector attracts. You know, high cost of financing, short tenor, variable rate, and most of the projects are prejudiced towards recourse. In my thoughts, I'm going to share with you, a couple of structures which now seems attractive for, for SHPs to come up. In fact, Utpal from Sun Edition was discussing below in financing for solar, his model around yieldcos. None of the, and that's a model which suits for companies with smaller projects, with companies with smaller but several projects, wherein, company with operating portfolio, they could go down and keep on recycling, seek listing on SMEs, and mobilize that money towards funding for subsequent projects. If we see most of the SHPs, we typically, in any other renewable across the globe, we would have two kind of models. We would have government-led models and we would have market-based models. And typically till date, most of our SHPs are skewed towards government-led models, and that is one lacuna which keeps on pulling us down. Of course, there are other issues which over the period, based on experience, are being taken care of. The thought is there are several new, because traditionally SHPs are driven by feed-in tariff, and that caps your top line, so we need to play in between that. So overall, most of the financing strategies today could now be reinvented or re-looked at, considering the power sale options that are increasingly becoming available to us. So besides looking at selling to the utility, which traditionally we always did at feed-in tariff, we could look now at the average power procurement cost of the utility. We could also have third-party sale. We could also consider captive use. And based on these revenue streams, we could think of several ways of financing projects. I have looked at one of them, wherein companies which has a portfolio of operating assets and which also has a portfolio of development assets could source investment from companies which are power hungry, and so there could be a situation of converting the existing structure into a captive model wherein the manufacturing company invests 26%, consumes 51% of the power, and invests in the operating assets, and that money could be used. It's a win-win scenario for both the parties, because the SHP, the SPB is able to raise funds which can be utilized towards developing the development portfolio. At the same time, it reduces the power consumption costs of the manufacturing companies. I have at the same time looked at another way of structuring the investments, typically on the equity side. There are innovative ways of looking at when it comes to smaller investments. So we have investment, either it could be a cash flow led investment model or it could be an asset control model. And more so for equity investments, what we feel is there is a specific instrument which we have seen of late being considered by a lot of private equity companies for investing in such projects, wherein you keep the common equity part, you reduce it to such an extent that it becomes very small. You structure it just for the sake of controlling the asset. The rest of the part is being funded either through local debt and through non-convertible debentures, and the fund flows in through offshore funds. Under this structure, we completely avoid dividend distribution up to the time of redemption of the non-convertible instrument. We also just pay withholding tax on the coupon being paid per annum. The coupon is accumulative, so if there are inadequate cash flows in a particular year, it can be accumulated and it could be paid in subsequent years, and there are no dividend distribution taxes on this. The third model, microfinancing through asset suppliers and subsequent takeout financing post-commissioning. Typically, most lenders, they view the development risk and the implementation risk very, very highly, and that's the reason there's a premium attached to it. We have increasingly found that technology suppliers from overseas are considering supplying on credit until the time the project is implemented. These are the cases which have been experienced and successfully implemented in places like Brazil and Canada. And we could experience around 2 percentage point reduction in the overall cost of financing. Just to highlight the context, for developing projects in India, especially in the renewable space, inferior terms of debt typically add around 30% of the overall project cost, which is around 20% higher than similar projects which could be developed elsewhere, say in Latin America or Canada. I have a few suggestions. I think this have not been discussed by Mr. Rana in the morning session. But there are a lot of segments which could be looked at for channelizing funding in the space. We spoke about infrastructure debt fund. Typically, this was conceived, this has been conceived to develop infrastructure space in the country. However, the conditions are such that it is not very amicable to the power sector. So we need to make this paper investment grade, and we need to have a mechanism to attract retail investors. We also need to have in place credit enhancement mechanism. Something similar was tried in the solar space. We need to have something similar in the hydro space, small hydro typically in the space, because of the implementation risk which is viewed negatively by lenders. We could classify this into two parts. We could have partial credit guarantee mechanism and partial risk guarantee mechanism. These are more non-monetary measures, but they are very effective in terms of buying down the cost of the funds. And we also need to look into insurance sector. This is a sector where there's a lot of money flowing in, but only less than 15% of the fund is being mobilized towards infrastructure. This is another segment which needs to look into. And we also have pension funds, which again, because of the stringent conditions, do not get pulled into infrastructure space. And the final suggestions around infrastructure bond. This again, the tax incentives which was available in this space, that lock-in period, that needs to be re-looked into. And the threshold limit particularly, that needs to be enhanced, because the income profile of people have improved. However, the limits prescribed in the statutes continue to be at the same level which are there. Thanks a lot.
I think we'll have to do some time management.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, 5 minutes each. No, because now 5:15 we would close. We have, and then we should have sufficient time for question answer. So that means now we have Mr. Arun Sharma, past President, Indian Small Hydro Association.
Good afternoon, friends. I'm speaking to you on behalf of Himalaya Power Producer Association. We are SHP developers in the hilly states, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu Kashmir, Sikkim. And it's a long journey. In fact, Dr. Saxena was the one who brought me in 20 years ago. It looks just time flies. And the first project we could commission was in 2001 near Manali, Solang. And after that, we have seen development, but very sluggish. And there are reasons. Because anything new always, particularly in small hydro and hilly hydro, will take time. But I think for last 3 years, what it should have happened, the momentum which had picked earlier, I think it has lost its momentum. Today the discussion is reinvest, we want to invest in hydro. So first thing, what I am talking is because I must tell an investor all the sides of the coin, even if there are hurdles. But let me in one way tell you that still it is the best sector. Why? We will go through. First, let me see what hurdles we have in this. If we look into there are challenges, and for these challenges, I simply say that we have to be different than a large hydro. Till hydro is being talked and all the things are being applied on us, whatever need not be on a small hydro. So the paucity of time, I'm just giving you just an idea that what are the challenges, particularly of a small hydro. And then there are the key players, and all the players have to participate. It is not on the developer who will do. We right from the government policies to the land transfer issues to the equipment supplies, insurance, banking, investor, and locals. But then there are specific issues. And again, it will take long time, but some of the issues, particularly like the forest, land transfer, the impact of FRA, the transmission lines, the grid connectivity, the REC mechanism, these are some of those which have halted almost as far as the growth of small hydro power projects are concerned. We have got solutions, and the forest land and NPV is being dealt at the center level. Now, this is a question since we are here in Delhi and many times we have taken to the different forums. I think something concrete should come out by now. In the morning, though the assurances were given to us when we met the Honorable Minister also, but these are lingering on for last 3 years, and I think we should not lose any more time when we look into the new slogan which is being given by the government. The power transmission and transfer of land, in addition to that, the PPA tenure is 40 years when you are blocked as far as the small hydro is concerned, because he can't go with the open access, a 5 megawatt. So 40 years too long a time, and foreign investor is very, very shaky to come in. I think when there is a provision for a large hydro to do it for 13 years, I think some reasonable time should also be given for a small hydro project for its PPA tenure. The open access, again, is not possible for a small hydro unless there is a bunch of it, and state government should come forward for a mechanism for that. I will just skip over, because my main thing is that few things like banking and insurance which were talked in the morning, that we looked at the disaster which Uttarakhand had. Many projects are bleeding, but nothing has come from insurance. Either it should be now a part of the banking documentation, because the money is to be paid to the bank directly. So I think to this, my appeal will be that unless there is a security on the natural disasters, I think nobody will like to invest. So this is one thing which we have taken up, and I'm sure in the future a separate either fund will be created or banks will take care as far as the insurance part is concerned. The climate change has been talked in other sessions. Local issues, technical issues, we are developers, we should come over from our own experiences. But the cost of the project today is not less than 10 crore per megawatt. And I'm glad that the mission which has been talked about, they have already acknowledged 9+ on that. And this is something which should reflect now with CERC, because tariff is the bottom line. And once that comes up, I think you will see entirely a bright future as far as the small hydro is concerned. The banks now are treating it as a normal industrial project. I think today in the morning also session when Honorable Minister was there, that Mr. Rana from Yes Bank said that we do need to have a definition that priority sector includes SHP. This is one thing which is very, very important. And in addition to that, as I said, it is different than the large hydro. The long-term investment, in fact, there are some notifications which we got issued from RBI, the banks are not coming forward to it. If we go abroad, you have investors, there's a 15 years to 20 years, a very normal thing. On a banking, the banks give on a housing loan 30 years. This is a set which will be 40 years defined and it is also generating. And still they say, no, repay back within 10 years, 12 years. So I think this is one factor where we must look into. You have these targets, achievements, which are definitely possible. Potential is even much higher. This is just for the few of the hydropower sites which you can see. But the slide I want to just come to it is, basically talk to you is, that what you need for generation. The hilly states give you the best option because you need water. Hydrology is best today because of Himalayas. You have high heads, which you don't find otherwise. All the developing nations do not have project sites because it's all over. Here is the possibility and potential in India where you can definitely have in hilly hydro, some of the basic ingredients are good. It's our own man-made, I think, problems or to solve those issues where we can get it. And I tell you that from an investment point of view, once your gradients are good, you have a good basic infrastructure available which needs to be developed. I think we have, the Himalaya can produce through small hydropower at least half of the country as far as the energy is concerned. Thank you, because we look for the questions and answers in case there are any from our experiences. We'll be happy to dwell on that. But at the moment, I think it has been a difficult sector, but we still have hope that it will outbeat all other energy sectors as far as reliability is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. I think you kept to the time of about 5 minutes plus. Now, may I request Mr. K.N. Bajpai?
Thank you, Chair. It's about the kind of opportunities we have in India in microhydro. And if I talk about that, we are talking about ultra-low head based microhydro. The drop head of water which is less than 3 meters. See, we have around our surroundings in the rural areas, we have man-made canals. Those canals have a lot of potential. That is the area where we have to address. And these canals we are talking about that less than 3 meter head. And this is the kind of model we can think about. And this I'm talking about based on experience which we are already piloted in Uttarakhand. It's running for last 1 year. It's running successfully. It has been tested. And the technology has been imported from Japan to India. And now it's being developed locally. The purpose is to develop these kind of low carbon emission technologies. Those are helping our people in energy security. They help us in carbon emission reduction or maybe reducing our carbon footprints. As I said, the project is supported by UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, with Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. The state level agency is UREDA, Government of Uttarakhand. The project has been piloted since last 2013. It is a kind of ultra low head based microhydro. It aims at clean and affordable energy. We talk about mini grids in the local situations, in rural areas, in the villages. We are talking about the mainstreaming the use of renewable energy in the various industrial applications. It includes the rural industries in terms of small and medium enterprises. People should use locally developed, locally generated electricity, kind of decentralization of the energy. If I give an example of Uttarakhand as a pilot state for UNIDO, which has 11,600 kilometers of canals, those are appropriate for such kind of technologies. There are around 26,000 kilometers of goods, those are small canals. Then we also have traditional water mills, those are running for years, for ancient time. They are indigenous technologies. There are 15,500 water mills. Those already have heads, those are feasible, those are applicable for such kind of technologies. If I give a very conservative figure of 30%, if we can use around 5,000 such heads we can generate between 50 megawatt to 100 megawatt of electricity locally within existing infrastructure. So it's the best use of infrastructure within that. Our focus through this pilot is to have 3 pilot projects in Uttarakhand that will demonstrate such technology. It will also do certain things related to the kind of available sites within the states. We are also developing a master plan with MNRE. There should be more localization of such technology. So first machine has come from Japan, but next 2 machines are being manufactured in India. So localization is has already started. The local capacity, local skill development, that is important area, is already been focused upon. So in nutshell, we are thinking that ULH, ultra low head based micro hydro, is a kind of a very emerging sector. It should be more focused. It should create more favorable policy, should create more favorable environment at federal level, at state level. There should be more networking among federal and state governments. It should encourage the investments in this sector itself. There are more opportunities, and we hope that these efforts will have more accelerated market and the development in India in energy sector. We did a market research study, where is the potential of such technology, and we found that there are many buyers, many manufacturers who have interest in such technologies. There are manufacturers who are very optimistic about Make in India campaign. They are very happy about 100% FDI route, and the technology itself has 2,500 to 4,000 per kilowatt cost now. It could be reduced further with more innovation, more skill development. So finally, what we suggest to the federal government and to the state, that we need more wider scaling up of such kind of technology in ultra low head based micro hydropower promotion. We need to link up the community based enterprise through decentralized power generation. We need to create demand through awareness, through more advocacy. We need more overarching policies, departments, agencies, ministries working together, making more conducive environment. We need more public-private partnership, or maybe these kind of investments. And top of it, knowledge management is important aspect here. Market to be created, the investors to be stimulated. That has to be kept in mind. And more innovation in the sector is needed. If I give an example, the skill development is the critical area that we have to focus. More application-based, applied practical aspects, rather more on academic, we should focus upon. We need more technological innovation in the sector, more decentralization of the technology. As India says, India targets for 20 gigawatt. Uttarakhand itself has 2 gigawatt power capacity. The development of master plan, the local sites, where are they located? We need to see into it to tell the manufacturer that there are locations which we can put these kind of machines. We need more incentives, more form of subsidies, more time of power purchase agreements. With that, like in Madhya Pradesh, we said that 6.5 per kilowatt, they purchase it. Similar kind of things has to happen in many other states. This technology does not require any civil work. That is the important aspect of this technology. One, it's very eco-friendly, environment-friendly. It does not need any water diversion. As such, in the water canal, you can put the machine just to generate it. 2 to 3 days, you can generate electricity directly off-grid as well as in on-grid mode. We have cascading options in such technology, because you need not to divert it. You just need to tap the falls. So there is a lot of scope for cascading such technologies. And it has best utilization in off-grid conditions. Means local in the village, or an enterprise, or a person in their its house can use this electricity his own. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bajpayee. I think it is excellent We must try to. You are doing for the whole of Uttarakhand the master plan? Very good, very good. With that, may I now request Mr. Lars Ellegaard, Country Head and MD, International Hydro India Statkraft. 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. I will try to be efficient. Good afternoon, everyone. Statkraft is the largest renewable company in Europe. So it's a significant company, and we have been an investor in India since 2004. So that's a long track record compared to a lot of other investors. We are predominantly focusing on large hydro, and now we have, I think, with my presentation, covered several of the segments within hydro. As an investor in India, it's of course a lot of challenges that we need to overcome, both by doing our own homework, but also that we need to cooperate with the central government and the state government in the states where we are investing. When it comes to hydro, it has a lot of advantages. I will go through the advantages since I'm in the hydro sector and not focusing so much on the disadvantages. But as long as you do this in a sustainable way, we think it's possible to do to the good for the society. Of course, in India, a large hydro is not viewed as renewable, but of course we view it as green and pure energy. It has very low operating cost. It can be in the magnitude of the OPEX of 2%, which is extremely low. The asset, they live for a very long time. We have assets in Norway that has been around for more than 100 years, and actually this year we are celebrating 120 years anniversary. The three next points is flexible generation, and it meets peaking demand, and it has synergies with other renewables. And as we see in India, it's a lot of focus on solar now, and for me it looks like hydro is a little bit on the back burner. But the key message, which I think everyone should remember after this presentation, is that solar actually needs hydro. It needs it. And when the sun goes down, you can obviously use battery technology, but you need grid stability with all this other renewable, and also black starts. So hydro will be very important going forward. So I'm not sure that there will be sufficient hydro capacity to sort of help when all this solar is up and running. And dams have a lot of benefits. It may not be very beautiful in the environment, but what we are looking at now is at very remote areas. I will come back to that. And of course, in India, which is very dependent on import of fossil fuel, hydro will be helpful in that respect. What we see in India is that hydro, the share of total production, is declining. It's pleasant, of course, to see that other renewables are increasing in relatively good pace. I think it could still be faster. But this is a problem, of course. And what we suggest is that maybe the government look into the policy and see if it's possible to make a policy where hydro take a bigger share of the total electricity production. Now I come specifically into some of the issues. Financing power projects are challenging. It's both due to owners that they don't have sufficient capital, but it's also that a lot of them are stuck in processes in various regulatory bodies and states and central government. And we can see here, it's clearly that, as all of us know, the Sensex has moved a lot in a positive direction, and especially after Modi was elected. But the power index has not developed equally positively. We are a Norwegian company, and you can just, and we are also state-owned and with a lot of political influence. And HSC is on top of the agenda of what we do. The projects we are looking at are extremely remote with very, very poor infrastructure and high risk. So this is something we are discussing a lot in our organization. And we think that border road organization should step up and maybe focus even more on this. It's not always easy to get hold of border road organization, as I see some people are nodding their heads. Yeah, but that is very, very important. And that must be done in cooperations with the states. We are an investor, and some of you may know Norway has a lot of capital because we are very oil and gas rich, and we are investing that. And India is one of 3 markets we would like to grow in. Brazil and Turkey are the 2 others. But there is a lot of idle projects out there which we could purchase and acquire, but unfortunately, state policy makes it difficult. This should be changed. This is common. I will not go through this, but this is for the whole electricity sector, distribution issues, and we would also like a more free market. And if you see on the bottom corner, what we have to struggle with is a lot of various clearances and acquisitions, and it seems like sometimes it's the chicken and egg, you know, that one is saying that this should be approved from this authority, and then they are saying the same, and then you have it. And there has just recently also been some changes from CA that says that geology studies must be ready. And then the other departments are saying that drifting needs to be finished. And of course that takes time, while previously you could deliver DPRs subject to. And that is no longer the case since December 2014. So these are issues that we have to struggle with on a daily basis. So this is a little bit about Statkraft. So with those words, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ellegard. Now may I request Mr. Uday Bende, Head of Power Business and EVP Kirloskar Integrated Technology.
Good evening, everyone. I normally make a request to Dr. Saxena or Dr. Arun Kumar for that matter that please keep me at the beginning of a presentation at the program, because by the time you get there, the time cutting has started like cost cutting starts. Anyway. We believe at Kirloskar we have adopted this, that yes, we start with kilowatts and then get to megawatts. The definition of small hydro in most places in the world is a little different in terms of the megawatt capacity. So here is an indication of, going up from 5 megawatts to 25 megawatts. But here in India, we look at micro as 100 kilowatts, look at mini as 101 to 2 megawatts, and 2 to 25 is the small hydro. Just a quick idea about the unexploited potential of small hydro in India. So if you see across the states, roughly anywhere between 73 to 96% of the available potential has not been exploited. Now, coming to the low hydro, low head or ultra low head, those definitions keep varying. What we looked at was, what was the need of the industry? And what is the technology that would satisfy that need? So we put a little thought onto what the need would be and came up with these parameters. That yes, you should have an integrated turbine and a generator so that it's a single piece product. Compact, cost effective, easy to install, easy to transport, low environmental impact, in situ maintenance, if we could do that. Standardized design, which means that the product is coming off an assembly line so that quality can be maintained. Short installation period and early power generation. Putting this all together, we tried to put down the product features, and this is what they look like. So in concept, we said the turbine must have an integrated permanent magnet generator so that we eliminate any moving parts. Completely housed inside a pipe with flanged ends so that connectivity is very simple. It's a bolt and fit kind of connectivity. Turbines could be installed in series and in parallel, which means that you can build capacity commensurate with the flow or with the head. Minimum components, just one moving part, even our shaft is stationary. Simple to install and maintain. That was important because you keep the O&M costs down. Low environmental impact as much as is possible, and the possibility of being able to remotely control this entire plant. Existing technologies, as you're all aware, the Pelton, Francis, Kaplan, and so on, what we tried to see was whether we, through this technology, and using a combination of turbines or an array of turbines at every site, would be able to operate in most of this range. And we came to the conclusion that yes, we would be able to. This is what our prototype looks like. What you see as the turbine is only one very small portion on the side. The rest is the draft tube. In this case, it happens to be a bent draft tube because we have to have the shaft coming out to be connected to a dynamometer for testing. Otherwise, the draft tube would be straight. So if you look at the turbine technology now, as we have developed it, it's an axial flow in-pipe turbine generator housed in a pipe with flanged ends, a shrouded rotor so that the generator can be integrated, stationary shaft. It has a horizontal split casing, so the casing can be lifted for any maintenance, exposing all the components of the turbine. The permanent magnet generator is integrated. The material of construction as we move forward will be composite, which is 70% lighter than steel, ease of handling, also a larger tolerance to low temperatures. This technology is protected by multiple patents. The powerhouse requirement also goes down substantially because we have almost everything that is there with respect to a conventional turbine, a conventional power plant that is housed in a powerhouse. The turbine, the generator, the transmission, everything is actually inside our turbine. And series and parallel connectivity for higher flows and heads. The generator technology, we have come up with a novel technology where we have got the entire magnets are embedded and encapsulated completely. We eliminate the transmission gearbox and also the forced cooling which is there in conventional hydropower plants. We have a consequent pole design, which means that we have only alternate magnets and then the remaining are induced, which is again a patented technology. We have a revolutionary design for cooling and silt management within the generator because the water that flows through the generator cools the generator. And the technology is protected. If you look at installation methodologies, again, very simple. A single turbine could be connected directly via a pipe using a siphon methodology. If you have arrays, we have got a framework structure which simply sits in the diversion channel with the array of turbines pre-fitted. So most of the products that come to you would come direct from the factory. There is no assembly per se at site that needs to be done. If you look at the turbine, I'm going a little quickly. If you look at the turbine specifications, we have looked at capacities currently which are 350, 100, and then in the low head area. So we're talking about 2 meters, 3 meters, and 4 meters of head. You have approximately rotor diameters which are going from 335 mm to about 1.35 meters. If you look at the medium and high head, we are talking about going up to about a megawatt in terms of capacities, and the rotor diameters going up from 335 to about 650 mm.
We finish it in a couple of minutes.
I'm through. If you look at the application areas, we're talking about enhancements of capacity of existing hydropower plants, new capacities, pressure reduction in water pipelines, replacement of water mills with the smaller capacity turbines, industrial effluent treatment plants, domestic commercial buildings, of course, pumped storage, and it can be grid connected or distributed applications also. Look at the advantages totally. We have much lower cost, we have a higher quality, and we have much higher convenience. Estimated costs are relatively in comparison with conventional hydro, going to competitive levels actually at the small hydropower stage. In conclusion, we have a very viable technology, and we are quietly confident that we would deliver a game-changing solution to this industry. Thank you.
Very good. Very good, Mr. Benu. What is the price of power? No, range? 260 to 5. Okay, very good. I think there is a request, and Mr. Saxena tells me that there is a presentation on issues in Himachal Pradesh by IPP. 5 minutes presentation by Mr. Rajesh Sharma, President Hydropower Association Himachal Pradesh. This is already loaded. And after that we will have Mr. Pawar, Energy Secretary of Uttarakhand.
Sorry, sir. I will go through quickly. I have few slides. The basic problem with hydropower in Himachal Pradesh is with forest clearances. There are few slides. I will go through all the slides. This is one slide. The issue related to Government of India: high taxes, service tax, excise duty, building cess, minimum alternative tax, and central tax. As you know that Government of India is going through this policy on solar, so all these taxes are not applicable to the solar. So this can be exempted in hydro in order to boost this sector. Abnormal delay in hydropower in forest clearance resulting in time overrun and cost overrun. Non-uniform SHP policy and tariff across the country. This is one issue. Non-uniform land lease rent across the country. Increased land requirement in respect of transmission lines. Problem associated with SHP are similar to mega project, though the economics is entirely different. Implication of FRA. This is one issue, bigger issue. Complicated procedure for financing of SHP, non-compliance of RPO renewal purchase obligations by state governments. We have a submission to the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy Sources. Subsidy given by the Government of India, ERC is deducting it for tariff calculation. So the tariff in Himachal Pradesh is lesser as compared to other states. The land lease rent rates should be uniform throughout the country, although this is a state issue, but Ministry can always ask the state government to keep rational and uniform lease rate in order to boost the renewable energy sector. State governments are not meeting RPO obligations, hence REC generated are not being sold. It is essential to suggest hydro REC, segregate hydro REC from other renewable sources like solar. If it is segregated, then this sector can have a boost. Due to poor viability, banks are not financing SHP. REDA may be directed to arrange World Bank, Asian Development Banks, International Financing Institution to loan finance hydro at lower interest rates. Central government, we have a submission to the central government. Tribal rights are settled in long back and recorded in settlement reports. Hence, no claim of the tribal is pending. Therefore, FRA should not be enforced in HP. To expedite forest clearance, it is desirable to set up a special forest clearance cell in HP, J&K, Uttarakhand, Uttaranchal and Sikkim, where maximum SHP potential remains enhanced, or power may be delegated to the state forest offices. The construction of tunnel is environment friendly, but it attracts significant cost. It does not interfere with forest, geology, etc. being underground. Therefore, the surface land above the tunnel should not be insisted to include in the land diversion case. This is one bigger issue. Since the construction of tunnel is environment friendly, but forest department insists that land over the tunnel should be included into the FCA case. After assumption of office by the new government at center, various clarifications have been issued in respect of linear nature of project, but the same are not being followed by the regulatory agency in absence of adequate clarity in the notification. As hydro project involves all the activities clarified for linear nature of projects such as road, transmission line, water canals, laying of pipeline, etc., it is requested that small hydro projects may kindly be included into the list of linear nature projects. Linear nature projects, there are few problems with hydro projects. All the agencies feel that hydro projects and small hydro projects are the same. So it is not included in the linear nature of projects. We request you to, if you proceed with the other, this agency, this is forest department, then this can be included in the linear nature of project. Requirement of the width of the construction of transmission line may be fixed on the basis of minimum requirement, that is 5.33 meters for 66 kV instead of 18 meters and 3.66 meters for 33 kV as per Indian Standard Section 5.8.1, 5.8.2, Section 2. सर ये क्या है इसमें कि जो हमारे ट्रांसमिशन लाइन की ये है विड्थ है, ये 15 मीटर की मैक्सिमम विड्थ जो है फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट ने नोटिफाई कर दी, वेयर एज दिस इज कॉन्ट्री टू द फॉरेस्ट कंजर्वेशन एक्ट. दिस इज वन स्लाइड. वी हैव सीन दिस ट्रांसमिशन लाइन इन सिक्किम. दिस इज इन सिक्किम. ये अंग्रेजों ने बनाई है सर. ये देखिए आपके से 33 kV में जो ट्रांसमिशन कॉरिडोर है दैट इज 1 मीटर ओनली, whereas forest department asks us to have a transmission corridor of 15 meters, जिससे कि इसकी कॉस्ट बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है जी. तो इसको टेकअप करें तो इससे हमारा काफ़ी कॉस्ट रिड्यूस हो सकती है. दिस इज अनदर स्लाइड. हमारा जो कॉरिडोर है इसके बीच का कॉरिडोर इज एक्वायर्ड सर. दिस इज टेकन इनटू द एफसीए केस. इससे बहुत ज़्यादा हमारा कॉस्ट इसका बढ़ रहा है. सारा जितना भी कॉरिडोर का है, हाँ जी एक्वायर्ड सर. हिली हाइड्रो में क्या है, हमारा जो ट्रांसमिशन कॉरिडोर है, अभी ये दूसरी स्लाइड है, हमारे जो पेड़ है वो बहुत नीचे रह जाते हैं, कॉरिडोर बहुत ऊपर, कंडक्टर बहुत ऊपर रह जाते हैं. लेकिन फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट कहता है जितना भी इसके नीचे आता है इसका आप 15 मीटर के हिसाब से, इसके लिए 18 मीटर के हिसाब से 66 kV के लिए, और सारे जितने स्मॉल हाइड्रो हमारे वो सारे अनवाइबल हो गए जी. तो इसके लिए सर इसको टेकअप अगर किया जाए मिनिस्ट्री की तरफ से कि भाई दिस इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड, व्हाई इट इज इंसिस्टेड. ये हालांकि हमने ये कहा है अगर एल सेक्शन इसका बनाया जाए, ट्रांसमिशन लाइन का डेवलपर से एल सेक्शन लिया जाए, तो एल सेक्शन से भी हम ये बता सकते हैं कि हमारे पेड़ कितने नीचे रह रहे हैं. उससे भी जितना हमारा पेड़ में अगर ऑब्स्ट्रक्शंस होती है, अगर 200 मीटर नीचे, तो वाई इट शुड बी एक्वायर्ड. ओके. अनदर वन सर, वन मोर स्लाइड आई वुड लाइक टू शो यू. दिस इज फाइन सर. ये कॉरिडोर के बारे में काइंडली सर ये करे. और हमारा जो हिमाचल प्रदेश का ये टैरिफ भी है, दिस इज द लोएस्ट इन द कंट्री. दिस इज 3.44, वेयर एज इन अदर स्टेट्स दिस इज नॉट लेस देन 4.38. मिनिमम इज CRC rate, that is 4.38, whereas the cost in Himachal Pradesh is the maximum. Thank you, sir.
Very good, very good. Now you could forward that set of specific suggestions to Mr. Saxena. You could take up through your secretary. Okay, Mr. Pawar.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the last word. And somebody please come and set it on the show. Okay. Yeah, right. Thank you. So, honorable gentlemen on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you. I bring from Uttarakhand greetings to you of the season, and also I extend an invitation to you to come and visit the beautiful state of Uttarakhand. I am also Secretary of Tourism of the state government, so I am just very happy to receive you for the next coming Yatra season. Talking about hydro and small hydro in particular, my state, of course, is in the forefront of what has been happening in the last 3 or 4 years. A very adverse environment has built up around hydro in the entire country, but my state has had the worst beating. Before I start my presentation, which is a very small presentation highlighting some of the policy facilitation that the state government has come up, I would like to put before the audience and the panel here that, to my mind, and of course all of you are veterans and very senior specialists in hydro, I think there are 3 distinct areas that need to be worked upon to rescue the hydro sector from dying. One, of course, as somebody put a small presentation on, is the financing mechanism, facilitating investment and financing in hydro, which I think to some extent also depends on the second segment, which is the government policies, how we facilitate, how we encourage, simplify, make easy to set up hydro projects. But third segment, which I think is a joint responsibility of all hydro developers, of course led by governments and other sections, other interested sections of the economy, is to develop a communication strategy. Hydro sector has become badnaam. I don't know what has happened in the last few years. We have a very dark shadow, a very adverse misinformation campaign against hydro. Investor confidence is lost. Technology interest is also disappearing. Litigations have risen. Courts have stepped in. So there is a complete negativity surrounding hydro in the country, especially in Uttarakhand. And most of it, I would say 95% of it, or even 99% of it, is not based on facts. Whatever has been going on around as opinions regarding hydro in the last 3 to 5 years is not based on actual facts. Hydro remains the oldest form of energy generation. It is the cleanest. It is also the safest, particularly small hydro. Now, what connection logically could there be between a cloud burst happening at 40,000 feet and a few 2 megawatt small hydro projects scattered across some agricultural fields in the mountains? What logical connection could there be? It is so ridiculous and stupid that people go to a court of law, High Court or a Supreme Court, alleging that because you are developing these small hydro projects all over the state, there cloud bursts are happening and floods are coming. I don't know what science can explain this. Is there any connection? And the courts of law are now deliberating upon it. There is a Supreme Court, this matter is sub judice. Among the other things that the court is hearing is this one question of connection between what happened on 14th of June 2013 in Uttarakhand and Kedarnath area and hydro projects. So if someone could produce before the court a logical scientific connection, then I think the matter would be settled. But I'm afraid, and I'm very confident, that there is no connection. However, with that background, so what we need to develop is also a very aggressive, positive media communication strategy to spread the right word about hydro, apart from positive government policies and financing mechanisms. And I'm very happy to learn that Government of India has now launched a small hydro mission, national mission. Just a little bit about the state of Uttarakhand. We are a very small state, 27th state of the country. We were formed 14 years ago. 50,000 square kilometer of area, but most of it is covered by hills, mountains and forests. 70% of it is forest. Assessed hydro potential in the state varies from 25,000 to 40,000, but more accurate estimates place it at 27,000 megawatt, of which only 13-14% has been harnessed so far. So there are large opportunities for investment in hydro in Uttarakhand. Now this is a very busy chart, but I do need your attention just for a minute just to tell you the kind of investment potential there is in the state. And I wanted to break up this chart into more slides, but I thought I would quickly finish it. Now if you look at the total row at the bottom, the total number of projects, small and large, operational, under development, or to be investigated, is on the lower side is 450 small, medium, large projects can be set up in the state of about 20,000 megawatt. Currently operational are only 92 projects of 3,600 megawatt capacity. So there is a large gap between what is possible, what is identified. It's not just a realm of possibility. We have identified these many projects, most of which are under some stage of development. DPR is being prepared, or investigation is being done, or some clearances are being obtained. So there is a very large potential for investment. But we need to create that investment climate. These are the different project holdings. UJVNL, which is the government-owned corporation of hydropower generation, holds about 1,300 megawatts. The central units, central public sector units, about 1,800, and independent power producers about 500 so far. So in all, about 3,500 megawatts is under operation. This is a map showing how projects are scattered across the state. We have, of course, like any other state, we have 3 utilities, but there is a presence of independent power producers, 25 independent companies, but more projects, just 25 companies, the Renewable Energy Agency, and of course a large number of CPUs are also present in the state in generation. This is the state government utility, which, so this slide again is to show that there is investment potential even in the government projects. We hope to develop currently we are operating about 5 small projects and 10 large, about 15 projects. But we can go up to 50 projects in the next 10 years, which will open up opportunities for a lot of contracts, EPC contracts, RMUs, new projects, etc. So tremendous potential for investment in Uttarakhand. And we have recently come out with new policies in 2015, starting this year, for 2 separate policies for mini, micro, hydro, mini, micro and small on the one hand, mini micro on one hand and small on the other hand. And of course, I thought if time permitting, I would brush upon the solar policy of the state as well. Let's just skip this one. So the hydro policy 2015 sir, we learned from what is going wrong. We made a small beginning, we made a small initiative, modified the existing policies. Now we learned that when it gets down to execution of the projects, there is local resistance. Forest is the first resistance, of course, getting forest clearances and getting other government clearances, but also there is local population is not on board most of the time when you take away their lands, whether it's Gram Sabha land or Sarkari land or even private lands. So, so we have a separate policy, and I'll tell you what the highlights of those policies are. Now, up to 2 megawatts of projects, micro and mini, are 100% reserved for local panchayats. Now, this has been done for 2 reasons. One thing, of course, is to provide employment and economic generation for the local population, but also to generate confidence in them that it's a good thing. And you should welcome people who come and invest in hydro sector and not shoo them away. Once they get a taste of how hydro generates money for them, giving them small hydro projects which require very little investment from Gram Panchayat side, because roughly 90% of the cost will come through Government of India subsidies and other financing mechanisms. So we want to develop a culture of hydro in every possible, nala, every possible nadi, and as many villages as possible. So, and of course, we are guaranteeing 100% procurement of these small hydro. However, we also have opened a small window below 2 megawatt projects, which are completely reserved for the panchayats, local panchayats, for individual developers who can come in as 10% equity holders and actually run the project, because the Gram Panchayat will not be able to run the project. They will need an expert, they will need an entrepreneur. But it's kind of a partnership between the Gram Sabha, which is mostly inactive. The operational part has to be handled by the, but that has to be a local person or a local company. So Gram Panchayats can operate on their own, or they can get into an SPV with any of these organizations, community-based organizations, societies, cooperatives, business companies, industry, or even power sector utilities. Of course, among the incentives that are available, capital subsidy as MNRE schemes are giving out is still available. State government's Rural Development Department has come out with a social venture capital fund for small and mini hydro projects fall under eligibility category. We'll get a grant from there as well. There is no royalty. There is no entry tax or VAT on some of this equipment that is used for generation transmission. And then we have a water user charges cess on water, use of water for generation of hydro for all utilities, all generating companies, private and government. But the micro projects will be exempt from this, micro and mini, up to 2 megawatt. And of course, government land will be given free of cost, 1 rupee per square meter for 40 years. And we've also reserved 5 megawatt projects for, in addition to panchayats, for only local companies, local societies. Beyond 5 megawatts is open to all developers. Bidding parameter is the upfront premium. The floor price has been 1 lakh for small, 1 for mini, and 5 lakhs per megawatt for above 5 megawatt projects. For captive power generators, we have an incentive of 20% to 50% relaxation in the upfront premium. If the captive power is consumed in the hills, then it's up to 50% rebate on the premium. There's no royalty. Up to 5 megawatts, there is no royalty. Beyond 5 megawatts, for 15 years, there is no royalty. However, they will have to share or invest 1% into the 1% of the project cost until the time the project is commissioned into local area development fund, and 3% to the 3-tier panchayat system, 1% to village panchayat, block panchayat, and also to Zilla panchayat each. So this is in a way we are getting the local panchayats, local public to have a stake in your project. So it is in their interest to get the project going as quickly as possible. So this is at a very, I think 3% of the energy, if it goes back to the local area, it buys them over, it takes them on board, and they facilitate your work, they do your work. And of course, all the other, and it will be treated as an industry, so all the benefits of industrial policy, exemptions of several types of duties and taxes will also accrue to hydro. You can transfer projects even before commissioning, but will have to pay a small premium of 20% of your upfront premium, but only once, so it doesn't become a trading business. And after the project is commissioned, you are free to sort of change hands by a payment of 10% of the premium. We are trying to set up a real single window clearance. We often talk about single window. It really doesn't happen. But we are trying to develop a system where it actually happens. You don't have to go from door to door, and there are time-bound clearances. Our biggest stumbling block, of course, is forest, but we are working on forest, and I hope the Government of India, MNRE, and works at the national level to ease out some of these forest barriers. And the gentleman who spoke from Himachal was absolutely right. You have to acquire the land under the transmission line. So much so, since I'm also Secretary of Tourism, I am encouraging ropeways across the valleys and mountains, because roads are amenable to getting washed away in the floods, but ropeways are more stable and better attractive sort of means of transport. So if a rope is flying 100 meters above land, you have to buy that land underneath. I mean, you have to acquire that land underneath. So our ropeway projects are not taking off. So we have a project proposed from Dehradun to Mussoorie, which is 11 kilometers. It's a huge ropeway, very long ropeway, and there is a huge stretch of forest underneath it, 100 meters below it, 200 meters below it. There is no connection. So you can't. What can you possibly do to the environment of the trees 200 meters below a rope going over? But such as our laws. Anyway, so Government of India might take a cue from here and come and help us at the central level. And of course, we have a very, very positive, Mr. Shahi was the pioneer in granting us a very modern, very liberal R&R policy, which is easily acceptable to the people there. And this is the policy that got the Teri project going. It was commissioned because it was a very liberal rehabilitation policy. And I was the district magistrate, and Mr. Shahi was the Secretary of Power in Government of India when we did this. And it has become a model policy for several states. To further ease things out for you, the state has a restriction of purchase of agricultural land beyond 250 meters. For the purpose of setting up a hydro project, this permission will not be required. We will set in place mechanism where the permission is automatic. Of course, only for specific purpose of setting up the hydro project. You cannot divert the land for other purposes. Land use conversion will also be automatic. And sale of power, we will give first right of refusal of purchase to the local distribution company, UPCL, and then you are free to take the power out of the state if you want to. So, and this is just one slide on the environmental issues. I just want to clarify. There is this matter is sub judice. There are three issues in that court case. One, as I said, is the possible connection between natural disaster and the setting up of hydro projects. The second is of a blanket ban on 24 under development projects. The projects were already being implemented at various stages. There is a WII, Wildlife Institute report that these projects are potentially harmful to the flora and fauna. What harm they will do is not spelled out, has not been studied, but there is some understanding of the institute that they may have harmful effect on flora and fauna, so the court has put a ban. So that is the second question in the court. And the third question is that the courts say that no projects should be awarded without obtaining appropriate environmental clearances, especially basin, and they should be based on basin studies. So we are now completing all these basins have been studied. Long-term environment impact assessment for all these river basins have been completed. So in the month of March, we will have completed 100% of the rivers in our state, which will open up these rivers for setting up of projects. So that's again a big facilitation and compliance to the court and concerns on environment. And there is a small question of eco-sensitive zone. The Uttarkashi Gangotri zone has been declared by the government of India as eco-sensitive zone, and they have banned all small, medium, large hydro projects in a stretch of about 100 kilometers from Gaumukh to Uttarkashi, which is again unjustified, which is not, there's no, and the state government was not consulted. So we are contesting this also in the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and also in the court. And we hope to, and we are defending it very, very strongly. And that's what I said, we need a communication strategy, a media strategy. We need to correct impressions, convey the right messages. So that's a very important part of how to revive hydro. All right, so these are the projects that are very likely to come up for bidding. One big change we made from the previous policy the state had, which got into controversy, because of which a lot of adverse attention was attracted, was the self-identified hydro projects. 900 megawatt worth of small hydro was self-identified, about 96 projects or so, which got into controversy over several issues. So this time around, the new policy says that there will be no self-identified hydro projects. There will be only state-identified projects. State government will make the DPR and bid them out on a competitive upfront premium basis. And these are the 12 projects that are very, very likely to come up the first, maybe in the month of May or June, or even earlier, about 165 projects. So there is investment opportunity here. Well, I'll skip the solar part. I think we have a very, just 1 minute on solar, we have a very investor-friendly solar policy also. There is no time today. I would have very much liked to sort of deliberate for a couple of minutes there. But nevertheless, we have a lot of attractive provisions, exemption from stamp duty, VAT exemption on the equipment, etc. So we will, so we will just skip this. No, I thought I had this opportunity, so I will. Anyway, so thank you very much. And we are open for investment, for very, very friendly government-friendly administration that will help you come back into the small hydro scene in Uttarakhand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pawar. So it has been a very comprehensive presentation. I think we've run short of time, but still few questions would be. Let me put the first question. Now, this has been the approach of the state governments after governments. I was trying to persuade them when I was there in the ministry as to why they are after this premium. So much so that in the revised hydro policy, not necessarily for small hydro, but for all hydro, in the revised hydro policy I ensured, the draft was done before I left and that was approved later by the cabinet. We said very clearly, and that was to dissuade or pressurize the bidders not to be very aggressive in giving big premiums, that whatever premium you give, and if you give anything beyond 13% free power, 12% plus 1%, that would not count for tariff. The idea was very clear. You see, this is the anticlimax of not promoting hydropower but demoting hydropower by putting this tag of premium and larger amount of free power. State after state, they have been asking this as a condition of evaluating the bid. How much premium you are giving and how much extra power beyond 13% you are giving. Free power you are giving. Because as it is, when I was in the ministry, I tried to discover what was the basis for this 12% free power. And we found that this 12% free power was to generally address the issues of distress caused to the regional, local areas. Not one state is using any fund of this 12% free power to do that. So that 12% free power given to the state for their wage and means position itself was unjustified, but I could not have wrecked up that issue lest we fought with the state governments. So we kept quiet. But issue was that cabinet note done much earlier provided for it. Later on, states have been asking for, you see, it's all right to be saying Government of India, Environment Ministry, I mean there are many issues, this and that, but I don't think that those states which are endowed with hydro potential, according to me, as an individual and as an energy professional, have been fair in expecting this type of extra things when hydro is being put under all types of pressure and problems. Yes, Mr. Joe,
People want to respond.
you want to add something? Give him a mic. Is there a mic in the audience? Otherwise, take this mic. One of them.
Thank you very much. Sir, I just want to make a few observations. There are a lot of questions have been raised. I think we have to talk of a few solutions. One solution you just touched upon. May I say, Shahi Sahib, that small hydro is in a very, I would say, ununderstandable situation. I think people must realize that small hydro is too small for big people. No Anil Ambani is going to come into this. It is too big for small people. And that's where I think the tragedy of small hydro lies. Somebody said it's a very weak combination of people. No, it's beyond that. It is people with very low financial power who are entering into this. So when you are talking of communication, one of the communication is, it is small entrepreneurs of India who are putting everything that they have to enter this field. That's one. Therefore, there ought to be policies, which the Prime Minister is saying, to encourage young entrepreneurs. Look at all the entrepreneurs in this business are young and financially very weak. That's one thing which is not being taken note of, is not being discussed, is not being presented. The second thing, sir, it is all in the hills of India. 90% is in the hills of India. And we are talking of development of the remote hills. Where is the development? When I retired from ITC, I had done a lot of work for villages in ITC, and I said, what should I do? I said, remote villages on the borders of India, in Himalaya, small hydro can open up those areas. Social issue. And I think the social ministry, like in your case, must support that, because you really are helping those villages where nothing else can happen. So that's the second thing on communication and distinguishing this from solar and wind, which is in Delhi and everywhere. So I think the whole thing is different. So that's one, sir. Now coming to a few solutions, sir. I think the greatest damage that has been done is when we brought in the RPO. Before that, Mr. Saxena will remember, there was a formula for pricing of renewable energy that was engineered by the ministry. 2.64 to start with, 3% every year, unending, etc., etc. Right? I remember when I started taking interest, I went to the ministry, Punjab ministry, and they made the rule of 405 from 360, and which was making it viable. Now, with RPO, everybody is saying, to hell with you, what RPO? I will not buy. Do what you like. And therefore, RPO is dead. REC, therefore, is dead. The rates have come down. You know, the rate which is being offered in Himachal is 2 rupees 20 paisa. And they say, okay, go and take the REC. Right? Under the formula now, this is my rate, average, etc. And why is the average? Because they are getting the Bhakra power at 18 paisa. How can you compare that? Compare the price of power in the last 4 or 5 years, I can understand that. So I think grave injustice, policy reversal is being done. So I think the group should be talking of correcting the policy reversal. See, the issues that we are discussing, sir, are well known. It's established industry, technology, etc. 5,000, 50,000 capacity is there. I think we should say, why is it dying? Why people are running away? Small people go to the bank and the bank is chasing them. So that is one. What do? I think last year there was a conference. The ministry had organized that. The then minister had agreed that the Renewable Energy Fund of 15,000 crores lying in the finance ministry will support the REC. REC is minimum 150, maximum 350. He said average 2 rupees we'll give. We will take the chance. We will borrow money from finance ministry and we will sell. How will the big boys not buy REC if the government is the owner of REC? They will not buy if I am the owner of REC. So I think some sensible approaches were being made. They have been given up. And that's where the weakness of the team comes in. And I think people like you will have to lead this, to correct this situation. Because everybody has said it's a wonderful, small source of industry, of energy. And I think we should not let it go. The other thing, big thing that is happening, sir, let me just touch upon that. Transmission woes. It's impossible. You know, small hydros are far away from each other. And the way to transmit power is just not there. I know power projects which are lying ready. A poor chap is incurring an interest cost of 2 crores, 1.5 crore per month. And he's just sitting there. There's no transmission. People are saying we won't let another wire go through. So I think there are issues of that nature, Mr. Saxena. And I think that's what are the 4 or 5 big issues.
All right.
Forest, etc., 1 year delay, I can live with it.
Yeah.
But day to day, when I can't sell power, how do you live with it?
Any other comment?
Thank you.
Any other clarification? One more.
Hi, Mr. Shahi. My name is Kalyan Korimerla, and I moved from United States to India in 2010 to pursue investments in renewable sector, largely, I guess, motivated by the talk we had in 2009 in your office. Nonetheless, we've invested into a couple hydro projects, and now we're looking at solar because it seems to be the mantra of the month, or rather the flavor of the month. One of the things that surprises me is how we never talk about the virtues of hydro. Hydros generate 3 times as many units as solar in a year, because in PLFs are 60%, solar is about 20 at best, and the projects last at least 3 times longer. So it means for every megawatt we invest, we generate 9 times more units over the life of the project. Yesterday when Minister said that the costs of solar are coming down and hydro is becoming more and more expensive and hence becoming unviable, it shocked me a bit, because there seems to be a big communication gap where he's not fully understanding the benefits of hydro. And number 2, hydro is fully domestic. Solar, you have to import 70% of your panel cost, right? Instead of importing coal, you're actually importing panels. So that doesn't really help, and there's also issue of disposal of panels. Nonetheless, my question, sir, as an investor, nothing scares anybody more than retroactive policies. When we got into the sector, we were told that the environmental flows are supposed to be so and so. And then we got techno-economical clearances and everything at certain environmental flows. And afterwards, the MOEF said during our environmental clearance process that you need to go release more and more water. Retroactive is the word, sir. That scares investors more than anything. And me being a former banker, even I'm scared. We start pumping money into this. because we're so scared. How can we address things like that, and what is the forum for us to actually take up these issues to the ministry? Because there is no single coherent or unified forum. Everybody has to find their own voice, and it's tough for people like us who come from abroad to actually find a channel to which we can go to. So if you can answer these questions, who do we talk to, and how can we address this in a retroactive implementation?
Forum is the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy.
Yes, sir.
Because this policy, which is retroactive, as you said, which requires larger amount of flow to be left and not used for power generation. That is definitely, many people have voiced that concern, but your question, which is the right forum? Right forum is there are many things which the conventional power ministry are taking up with the environment ministry, on whether it is transmission or it is coal or it is hydro projects, other hydro projects, and similarly this issue, both power ministry as well as Ministry of New and Renewable Energy is the right forum. But I myself made that point. It pains us that somehow hydro's contribution is not being projected, and only certain ill effects which need not be attributed to hydro project, as I said, as Mr. Pawar has also said, are being projected and over magnified. That has to be collective, because the society, one thing is very clear, society in India in general, let us leave people like us, we are talking to each other and convincing, we are convinced. Society in general get into that type of a story, that yeah, really it is so. So there is resistance. There is resistance. Like rightly said, go and see Tehri project, it is a storage project and such a nice modern township with all facilities, all rehabilitation measures taken. There will always be scope for improvement, but as a macro picture, that is the situation. But then still people are opposed to storage projects, they are opposed to even, then they come into the question of whole river basin study, go on studying, and as a result, I think our proportion has gone down. Our proportion has gone down in terms of about 16–17% of the total capacity only is hydro now. When I left, then also it was 26%. Now it is about 17%. And by the end of this plan, or 13th plan, it is likely to become 13%, because we know which projects are likely to come or not come. I think a lot of suggestions have been made by Mr. Chuk, and a presentation was made, a good presentation was made on the suggestions. Let us list them down, and the nodal ministry is the Ministry of New and Renewable. We as individuals, definitely we will contribute to this. I don't think I need an answer right now from Mr. Pawar as to why this more than 13% free power and why premium. That is a.
So how do you give away a national resource?
Yeah, that is a national trend. But I tell you, I told the King of Bhutan that we were doing a project which is heavily funded by Government of India, Tala project, and I got that commission also in my time. And I told, sir, you have some 30,000 megawatt of, Your Majesty, you have 30,000 megawatt of potential. And if you think that Government of India will go on giving grant and loan like this, so every 10 years you will get a project. But if you do a different way of funding and your expectation from Government of India is moderated, reduced, then we have a scheme that you will do so many projects at a time. And that gave rise to an agreement with Government of Bhutan to develop 10,000 megawatt of capacity. Because I showed him what it means to have 12% free power. 12% free power itself is a great thing. Great thing.
You should not have both.
Yeah, 12%, yeah, you shouldn't have both. You shouldn't have premium. Because we are making, what is happening is, we are making these projects unworkable, unviable. Yes. And then you get less projects. Who will buy? Now all questions are coming.
You can abolish royalty, you can abolish competitive premium, But how do you distribute a natural resource, land and water, with, like the Supreme, it's now settled, like coal or like spectrum. How do you give away natural resources?
No, Pawar Sahab, I am telling you, no, I mean, we're not debating. See, point is, do you know, using hydro policy as an example, I was confronted with the states, by the states which have coal, that why not 12% free power to us? So hydro is already ahead. So hydro has no case. Coal people had, but they were getting royalty, and now a little more. Ultra mega project we did only on tariff. You see, the question is, that is a big issue. I don't think it is only to you. In general, I am saying that that is something which is sort of decelerating, also decelerating the process. Apart from the fact that the mindset is not very much in favor to promote or support hydro project development, but this trend was not there earlier. With 12% free power, which became a bone of contention for coal-bearing states, and hydro-bearing states have gone ahead one step further. So there was no case at all. With that, I think we will close. We are just 1 hour. We are 1 hour beyond the schedule. Thanks a lot to all the panelists, and I had good occasion to meet Mr. Pawar. He was so helpful in doing the project as collector of the district, dealing with societies and dealing with land losers and others. Each time I went, we talked to them, and he was very, very supportive. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Let me thank the chair, and on behalf of this house, I would request to